mean, so here's the thing. I think that Microsoft has raised the awareness of this idea that, over the long haul, knowing what's happened to your group policy objects is important. I mean, let's think about that logically. Just even if there was no tools on the planet, even if there's nothing that could help us solve this problem, let's talk about why that problem would be really important. I mean, okay, so on a Monday, you decide you're going to have a GPO, and you know what you're doing. You go in, you make 2 or 3 changes to the GPO, and it works perfectly. You do some testing, everything's great. But then some other administrator comes in and says, look, I wasn't told that we were going to do this thing, so we're just going to uncheck one of your settings. And then a third administrator comes in, and he undoes another setting and adds another setting. It's like by the time you turn around, over the long haul, the history of that group policy object that started on a Monday, went through to a Wednesday, went to that next Friday, went to that next Monday, who knows what the history is? Now, you shouldn't be changing group policy objects every day anyway, but if you have lots of administrators, if you have, a decent, change, if you have decent amounts of changes, you're going to have to know over the long haul, well, what was the baseline? What did I start off with, and what did this GPO grow into? And if there's a problem, would it be great to kind of think, well, that problem kind of started last Wednesday. Hey, maybe it was that group policy change we just created. Why don't we figure out what that change was, and we can kind of go from there? So, the story is Microsoft thinks that this is an important thing. The problem is there's nothing in the box that will help you through that problem. Now, they do have a pay tool. It's called AGPM, or Advanced Group Policy Management. But the deal is that in order for you to buy it, you get the privilege to buy it if you're an FA customer. Let me say it again. You can't just walk into your local Microsoft district and go, hey, buddy, I'd love to buy this one tool, AGPM, because that Moskowitz character said it's a good idea. You can't do that. In order for you to buy it, you must be an SA customer on the desktop. Now, once you have that, you then have to then buy a whole set of tools called the Microsoft Desktop Optimization Pack. Now, you get 5 tools or 6 tools in that kit, and some are great, some I had never seen anybody use, but the point is that you can't just buy one. So if you look at this kit and you think to yourself, wow, there's a lot of great stuff in there, yeah, well, you have to buy all of it as one shot. And for cost, well, I'm not going to talk about prices here. That's for, people who deal with that to talk to you about. But long story short, you should examine that to see if it's, appropriate for you. And I think that's all I have to say about that.
So just real quickly, we'll talk about what's an active administrator as well. We do have a base form of change management. We do that utilizing native permissions and what we call offline GPOs. And I'll kind of just really quickly demo this for you. Let me jump over to my VM and then share that out for you. You guys should be able to see the VM. Yes? Is that a yes, Jeremy? And okay, cool. So we have this offline repository that we maintain with group policy changes. You'll also notice just really quickly that we do manage group policy objects by the object, by container, and there's some feature sets that we'll talk about with those as well. But for right now, just kind of sticking with the issue of the changes, is the ability to maintain an offline version of group policies as you're making those changes, and using nothing more than sort of a native permissions, and we create a base change management system. And what I mean by that is this: if someone has read permissions to a group policy, just read, that's all they can do. They can look at the contents. They can't modify it at all with an Active Directory. They could utilize the Active Administrator console, and they can, in essence, go ahead and add a group policy here to the offline repository, grab it, and I'm going to hit cancel here because I've already got one, but add it to this offline repository, and then since it's offline, they could go ahead and check it out, and then they could go ahead and, come on, there we go, and edit it offline. And you notice when the MMC comes up here, you'll see in the top in the header bar for it, it'll say that it's an offline group policy. And the idea here is that, again, this person only has read permissions. They can modify this group policy offline, and then once they're done, this MMC, again, Jeremy, you and I'm going to call it Moskowitz's law. That's what I'm going to call that. The exponentially more slowly as the number of people increases.
Yep.
You should claim that for yourself. Okay, there it is. It finally came up here.
Again, that was one of my mentors who gave me that little...
I'm just going to claim it that it's you.
So all right, done.
You see here in the upper left of the MMC snap in its offline version, and I can edit this just like normal, just a group policy object editor, no big deal. But then the idea is once I'm done and I've made changes, In a very simple format, I could go ahead and just check it in and apply the changes, and then go ahead down here, although it's grayed out, I'd have to check it in first. Publish it to Active Directory. So I have this ability to do that, but then if I'm publishing it to Active Directory, wait a second, the person I was kind of making this scenario about only had read-only permissions to the group policy. So they don't have the rights to publish to Active Directory because this app runs into the context of the user utilizing it. So that means that a separate person is going to have to approve those changes and go ahead and then basically publish it to Active Directory. That person would need write permissions to the group policy. So with nothing more than just native permissions, we've forced a sort of a change management scenario. Now there are a couple of things that could be done to the group policies in order to verify if they are indeed correct, the changes you want, and so on. Carolyn, why don't you steer me a little bit, even though I'm driving, and let's talk about some of those feature sets here in 5.5 where they can run some reports and all that.
Okay, sure. So one of the new feature sets in 5.5 is the ability to compare group policies. And I believe that's where you're going here with your demo. So right now we have a GPO in the offline repository.
Oh, sorry. I clicked on something. Keep going.
Yeah, that's okay. So you're in the offline repository right now. You were the junior admin. You didn't have permissions to publish it to AD. If you wanted to, you could compare that offline repository to what's live in AD, just so you could check that the changes you made were correct. You could run that report right here from this menu that you're at. That'll show you the differences between, the changes that you did as learning group policy management, right, and the changes that are actually out there in production. So that's one of the new features with 5.5.
I clicked it. I'm going to see if the report comes up quickly or if Moskowitz's law holds up.
I think it's Moskowitz's law. But that...
Wait, I don't like this idea that there's a law about me that's negative. That's... you could have changed this around.
Oh, Moskowitz is anti-law then. Tell you what, we'll keep going and the report will pop up and we'll just demonstrate it then.
Yeah, that's fine. So that ability for comparison, it applies for comparing reports that are offline, as well as reports that are, as well as group policies that are online. So maybe I have two different GPOs in production, and I want to see what the differences between those are. Maybe one is, a newer group policy I've created. I have this old one out there. Somebody else did it. I need to look at the differences between the two of those. I can do that from this screen as well, where you're at. You can pick your target, you can pick your source, and then you can just see a nice side-by-side comparison on what those changes are.
I think because the other report's trying to run, it's gonna crap out on me. Who would have thunk? This worked fine yesterday.
Yeah, this may just be kind of slow in your VM, right?
I'm gonna blame it on the old. The VM doesn't work well when we'll go to meetings running. I don't know where people came up with that, but somehow that's a.
It's coming up right now. So here you are. So you need to go and make sure that you've picked your source, right? You have that set as GPO.
Oh, I already have it in there. Sorry, the source is already there. So just add a target.
So go ahead and pick your target.
Let's pick any other GPO that's in here.
Yeah, any other GPO. It's fine to show that. And then it displays the summary. The tab on the top is where you can actually click on that, and you can see side by side. You can scroll through this and see what differences there are. And these two GPOs you picked have quite a bit of differences. Shows you the link, shows you all the settings. One of the other new features with 5.5 is we also included the ability to report and manage on group policy preferences for 2008 domains. So if those were set, those would show here as well. Just really a nice, easy-to-use interface, something that people have been asking for.
Yeah, and then the other part about Carolyn talking about the fact with comparing the offline to the live is something that even the person doing the approving might want to utilize. So they can say, all right, I told you, junior admin person, to change these 4 things. Let me double check that that's all you modified. So that becomes very helpful. And then additionally, in case, so maybe reactively, a change is made that impacts the users, we do maintain a group policy history where every time a change is made, we keep a copy of it here, and then we can always take an old version here and roll it back into production. And that way you have sort of a safety net constantly should changes be made that impact users negatively, according to Moskowitz's law. I'm just going to throw that in for games.
And that speaks to the scenario that you were talking about earlier, right? Someone rolled in a group policy last week on Wednesday. We know it broke something. This gives you the ability to easily revert back to that point in time and just roll back to that point.